Welcome back to the show, Cari Horning. Thanks for
Same
being
here.
here.
Hey,
You
thank
are
you.
our career connected learning specialist, and I have you on here about once, sometimes twice a year to tell us what's going on with your organization. And you caught my eye recently talking about your podcast that airs twice a year. So we haven't talked about that yet. So
Yeah.
we'll talk about that today. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you. I'm excited.
Let's give our audience an overview of connected learning and what exactly it is and your role within that position.
Yeah, a quick reminder would be, I fall under the umbrella of the North Central Educational Service District 171 out of Wenatchee. We cover 29 districts. I always like to say it's pretty much from the Canadian border to the Oregon border. But my focus is out here really in Grant County, working with the school districts, trying to make sure that the students know what careers are here, what skills are necessary for those careers. So I'm also out in the businesses quite a bit, trying to build relationships with them so that I know the information and we can kind of pass that along to the teachers and students. It's really, we've talked about it before. It's just exploding out here, the different manufacturing, different career opportunities. So it's pretty exciting.
You and I went to high school together for a couple of years, or for one of your years, and we didn't have anything like this when we were coming up. And it's fairly, how new would you say that this way of reaching students to give them an idea of their possibilities? How long has it been happening? What do you see as improvements that have happened since you started working in this space?
Well, I came to the NCSD in 2018, and I know it was starting to kind of, evolve at that point and really get. It had a big push in the Moses Lake area, especially for the manufacturing careers. And since I've come in, I would say it's only grown. Everybody wants to participate. I always, joke around a little bit with all of my partners because when I come into a room, I bring a little extra work. I'm asking them to do something that's above and beyond the job that they already have. And that's not always an easy thing to do. But just what you said, everyone I speak to says the same thing. Geez, I wish this was around when I was in school. Wow, I wish I had these opportunities. And they're really simple. I mean, some of the opportunities are, the companies opening up their doors for tours. Not all companies can do that because of what they're doing. But bringing the students on site really does light a fire. You can see there's always one or two students that are just lighting up. They kind of get it, like, oh, this is what's going on in this building, and I think I want to be a part of it. Tell me more. So that's really cool to see that. So it's not always a big ask, but we're definitely always asking, for something. It seems like.
Well, I've had the privilege of being a guest speaker at a couple of your events and getting to connect with the students. And what I also really enjoy about connecting with the students, for one, they want to be there. They seem to really want to be there. So they're engaging. They ask a lot of questions. And the other thing is they send thank you notes.
Yes.
And I don't get a lot of those these days, and you probably don't either. So that's a really nice added touch. And I'm sure it's something you're teaching them about applying for jobs and internships and trying to really stand out. And that's one way that you can. It's just something extra special that, I might be on with my week and not thinking about last week when I spoke there, but then getting a note, it really shows the appreciation. I'm sure that's a step that you guys ask them to do, and hopefully they have value that in other areas of their work and space.
Yeah, I think so. It's not a hard ask of the students. Some of the teachers already had that happening, but it falls under what we call soft skills. And it's really just kind of a simple thing to do. Most of the teachers, after a guest speaker comes or there's some sort of an event, whether it's a tour or an actual, career event, they're asking their teacher or their students to do that. And yeah, we've kind of encouraged them. But the feedback has been amazing. I love that you said this because I actually just received an email a week or so ago from another, business professional who participated in a CCL event. And they're like, I cannot believe these thank you letters, individual from every single student that actually call out something I said. One of the best schools, I probably shouldn't call out schools, but I will say ACH, Elmira Cooley Heartline, does a very good job at it. Their students, they get it. And it's a small school, so it's easier. It's a little bit easier when there's only 25 or 30. But they actually wrote me a thank you letter, the senior class last year, each one. And I responded back to them. I knew they were graduating. I knew they were heading off. And it was a nice little, evening. I just sat down and shot them each an email to say, hey, good luck. Thanks for your kind words. Reach out if you need anything. And it's those little things that make a big difference.
Yeah, I've replied to them as well, and I feel like I should have thanked you all for having me with a proper thank you letter, but hopefully I'll do better about that. I'll do better about that.
Yeah.
I just bought these note cards that say on the front, better than a text. And the idea is that you put them in the mail, right, and send a little thank you, which we do so infrequently these days. Let's take a break. When we come back, I wanted to talk about some of the MVPs, the most valuable partners who will be featured on your podcast. Again, you only do it twice a year. So if you're having them on, it's for good reason. And I think that in addition to the podcast episode, we can shine some light on the work that they do and the help that they provide. We'll be back in just a moment. Okay, we're back talking with Cari Horning. We're talking about the podcast that you host twice a year that spotlights some of your MVP, most valuable partners for the career connected learning, which is the work that you do in North Central Washington. So let's get started with the guests and the topics that you'll be covering for this round of the series.
Yeah, this round has started already. So September 1st was our first podcast for MVP, which stands for Most Valuable Partner. We hosted Group 14 on the 25th. And that interview is available on our YouTube page. It's actually Career Connect Washington North Central. And that's where all the MVP podcasts live. I joke around a little bit about it. During COVID, this came up. My boss at the time, Dr. Sue Kane, suggested I do it. And, I was like, I don't think this is, for me.
You always say that, even when you come on this show, and you do a great job. So I'm glad she convinced you otherwise.
Yeah. Well, and here we are now, 3.5, 4 years later, and we operate it very similar, but I do not have that cool microphone. So I keep making jokes that I need to, send the NCSD a bill for a wardrobe because I'm starting to repeat. Well, I'm not starting. I'm well into repeat on my outfits, but anyways, yeah, so it's been really fun. And we always pick a little bit of a theme to each session. So when the school year starts, we're usually starting up our first session for that year. That's what we're in right now. And this year this season, the session is clean energy. There's so much going on in Grant County, North Central Washington, and Moses Lake especially, in terms of clean energy, that we decided to highlight them. So last week was Group 14. That does live on our MVP series YouTube channel already. Coming up this week, we have Sela Nano. And then we're going to follow that up with 3 or 4 other, other interviews that we can talk about, as we kind of get to it, if you like.
Yeah. Let's talk about Group 14 first. Let's go in the order of the guests that you have. So people can listen and watch this on your YouTube channel, but let's go ahead and give them an overview. I'm not, so people know what Group 14 is specifically.
Yeah. I'm no expert. I'm still learning about all of these different industries, but Group 14 is new to the Grant County area. They just received up to a $200 million grant from the federal government to do the work that they're doing. And they're creating a material that is basically going to make these EV batteries lighter weight, go longer, charged, higher charge, all those good things. So instead of getting partway from Seattle to Spokane, you can make it all the way. And maybe you've got more power in your vehicle to do that. So that's a very simple, layman's term of that, but they're all working basically to make clean energy a viable option for the majority of the world, really, at this point. So
happening right here in our backyard, which is very cool. And then let's talk about your the guest that's the next featured guest.
Yeah, Sela Nano. So they're doing something similar. They're all kind of on the same track with trying to, again, increase battery performance, decrease their carbon footprint, et cetera. So it's that clean energy world, and that is that's their focus. We have a company that will also be on the MVP podcast called REC Silicon. They actually create some of the material it's that silicon material that these industries are using. And then they have a process, and of course, it's all NDA, non-disclosure. It's very secretive at this point still. a lot of players in that field and their neighbors. That's kind of the cool thing in Moses Lake. Sealand Nano and Group 14 are, I would say, somewhat, competitors for sure, but yet in our community, they are partnering and working together to make the community better and stronger with good jobs, with the participation with their employees. They've been really stellar partners with the Boys and Girls Club, with Career Connected Learning. So it's really pretty cool to see.
You've mentioned Moses Lake a couple of times now, and I didn't realize until one of my loved ones got a job there at a large corporation, a manufacturing company, the industry that's there, right there in Moses Lake. You want to talk about that for a minute? Because I know that you encourage students to consider that as a career path.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I really could probably talk about it for an entire segment. What's happening is not just manufacturing and it's not just clean energy. We have aviation and we have aerospace. I mean, there's a company there called Stoke Space, and they are creating reusable rockets right here in Moses Lake. And it's really incredible work. That it's still is hard for me to believe it's happening right here in our backyard. But yeah, aerospace, aviation, obviously there's the manufacturing. Now there's the clean energy manufacturing. There's still food processing. There's healthcare. Samaritan Hospital is getting a brand new, hospital right now. So there are so
That
many.
was our very own Quincy.
Yes, exactly. Quincy as well. So which is super exciting. I mean, this entire region, what our different port districts have done in terms of bringing business in. I know it's really controversial. I'm married to a farmer. When we talk about agricultural land, then all of a sudden having these big cement buildings, it's a little controversial. We have some of the best, most nutrient dense, property ground in the nation. So why would we cover it up with that? But, when I moved to this area, our economy lived and died by agriculture. And it's not a bad thing, but it's also not a great thing in terms of expansion and growth for a community. And so the fact that, our port districts have brought in these different industry partners to build and create jobs. We have tourism now. I mean, the winery, we've got our own AVA in this area. KV is incredible. We've got Live Nation. We have all the little wineries that are around here, Errant Cellars and Beaumont and Jones. I mean, they're not so little anymore.
Yeah, right.
So really that's kind of what's so exciting is for these students who the numbers show. There's a website called erdc.com or I think it's actually, .org. But they give us the data on students after they've graduated, 8, 6,
right,
15 years out. And we're learning that they're staying. Most of the students are going to Big Bend Community College. They're returning to this area. And the truth of the matter is we have to have good living wage jobs for that to make any sense. So we have them now. I mean, I think my interview with Group 14 last week, they were talking about a couple hundred more jobs. Sealand Nano is talking about a couple hundred more jobs. We haven't even talked about, there's a carbon capture company called 12. They're also on the docket. I'll be interviewing them October 23rd. They're carbon capture out of the air, out of our environment, in creating products, plastic-like products. And I might have just butchered that since I haven't interviewed them yet. I'm not an expert, but it is so exciting. I mean, it really is just super exciting, and it's opportunities for our kids, our students, our future.
Yeah. I was on a road trip from Boise back. So you see a lot of Washington State going that route. And there were I got behind a corn truck. Took me a little longer to get where I needed to go. That's okay. But then, so for every farm and potato truck I saw, there was, big trucks hauling huge pieces of machinery that I knew nothing about, but I knew that they had something to do with what you're talking about. And they all had Washington plates. And I thought this is a balance, right? That this is a good thing for our people, our kids to have jobs and remain in the state. And, lots of kids say, they go to college, I'm never moving home, I'm not going back. And then a lot of people do, including myself. And but we have to have an opportunity for them. And whether that's in the industry you're talking about, a lot of these. And in fact, I just was reading that wasn't this area one of the biggest Airbnb rentals for the summer 2024. Like, it's a cool place to be. And growing up, it didn't feel cool because it was home. But to have a home where we can employ our kids and give them opportunities, that's really the point you're talking about.
Oh, 100%. I mean, like you said, when you see the data that they are actually staying here anyways, we've got to have jobs for them, because you cannot have students graduating from high school and landing or staying in these communities with no future ahead of them. So, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
let's take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about how businesses can get involved and how individuals like myself and business owners can get involved as well. We'll be back in just a moment. Cari Horning, we are wrapping up with you. What an insightful conversation about just the possibilities right here in our own backyard throughout North Central Washington. And we're talking about your NCW MVP series, the podcast where you highlight different partners in our community. And when you talk about career-connected learning, we've talked about the speaking opportunities and different things. But if someone's watching and they want to know how they can be involved, whether they're a business or an individual, let's start with the light lifting that they can do to contribute. And you say that when you show up, you're usually asking for something, but you're so nice about it that I'm sure people like to say yes. So let's give them an idea of that, can we?
Yeah, for sure. 100% I'm asking. So the light lifts, we actually have this really beautiful kind of progression of assistance that we're looking for when career connected learning comes into to meet with business partners and even with our schools. The light lifts are just kind of what we've talked about. Maybe you are going to come in and be a guest speaker. Maybe you're going to allow the students to come in for a tour. Something that's really a focus right now is work-based learning, and all of the CTE programs, or career technical education programs, have certain requirements they have to meet because they get funding, state funding, many of them through a Perkins grant. And that work-based learning looks like, hey, we're going to host an actual career day. So Quincy High School on Thursday, we'll be having 2 different panel sessions throughout the day, one in the morning, one in the later morning, early afternoon, where we're bringing in professionals to talk to the kids and just show them how they, made their way to their career. Most of them are alumni, so it's really cool. We've tried to focus on Quincy alumni. And we're coming in from all different angles. We have manufacturing, we have hospitality, we have healthcare, and we have entrepreneurs. So it's really fun to do that as well. But those are some of the easier, lighter lifts. And then we kind of work our way into a little bit, heavier in terms of internships and job shadows. This is really important because it gets the students out into the job, not to just kind of look at it and do a walkthrough, but to actually do it. Look over your shoulder. Maybe they're given some work assignments.
I am a huge fan of internships, and my son had a couple of them before he started college and then a couple in college. And what a lot of them taught him, I think most of them, is what he didn't want to do. And that's okay too, because you think it's a real exciting something you want, and then you're in it and you're like, that's not quite it. And then you can go on and scratch it off your list and go on to the next thing. Because some people prepare for a career and then they never have taken a look at it up close. So it gives people an opportunity to do that.
Yeah, 100%. The internships are super important. And we actually have a whole new staff member on Career Connected Learning based on a state legislative bill that we're going to create internships under the computer science network. So that's her job. She is out there right now trying to get internships. I think it's like 182 for our region in the computer science IT world. So if anybody's watching and has that type of a area of work, then definitely reach out to us, because I'll connect you with Nikki, and we would love to get students into that situation. So
the job shadow might be just a day, whereas the internship could be an entire semester or something.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it could be a couple, it could be a month. I think we really have creative freedom to kind of build around that. They do have to be paid. The ones that Nikki is working on, those have to be paid internships. We're tracking everything. She is tracking everything. But it's great opportunities for the students. So
let's talk about the events you have coming up.
Yes.
Well, those are still light lifts. What are the heavier lifts? Let's get to those real quick.
Well, that kind of took us from light into medium. The heavy lift really is the apprenticeship, and that's like 2,000 hours. We work very closely with AJAC. Those are registered apprenticeships. We have 5 or 6 of them right now at Genie Industries in Moses Lake. Those are incredible. Those set these students up for, these amazing jobs with great pay and great benefits. But the students are going to school, they're taking classes, and they're working, and it's 2,000 hours. So those are impressive.
Let's talk about the events you have coming up. We still have a few minutes, so I'd like to get into the details of those events. And again, how people can be a part of them, whether they're volunteering or they're showing up to participate in some other way.
Yeah, here comes that ask, right?
Here we go.
Yeah.
With such a big smile. Everyone's going to say yes, Cari.
I know. So the first one and the biggest is October 17th. We are hosting 2 simultaneous events. One is our normal college and career expo with Big Bend Community College, and the other one is a computer science fair, again, happening at Big Bend at the same time, just a little bit different on the hours. But that CS fair, we really need a lot of volunteers, because what we've done is we've doubled our work, right? We're bringing in students from all across Washington State to learn about computer science and IT. And we're going to kick off with this great hour of keynote speakers, and we're going to have a computer giveaway. But we have check-in. The students have to be checked in. Volunteers have to be checked in. But then, because of the College and Career Expo, our exhibitors have to be checked in. Schools have to be checked in when they start to arrive. We're going to be providing lunch for the CS students that are attending. So if anybody wants to volunteer for that, they can certainly reach out to me. We can make sure my information is in the chat, or Lisa can share it. But we also have 2 other events that are College and Career Expos. One November 7th over at Wenatchee Valley, and then one up in Okanagan. That is exactly the same thing. We're bringing students in to learn all about colleges and careers in the area.
Well, there are so many opportunities to work together, and that's why I like having you here, because you always have new information, always something new to share. Tell people real quick, in just this last minute, how they can listen to your NCW MVP series, the Most Valuable Partners.
Oh, yeah, you can register online. There are links on our social media, Career Connected Learning Grant in Adams County on Facebook. You can reach out to me, Cari, CARIH, at ncesd.org. But then they live, if you can't join us or don't have the ability to join us live, they live on our YouTube channel, which is Career Connect Washington North Central. On YouTube, the MVP series is there. Again, it's most valuable partners. Yeah, most valuable partner. And they're all there. I think there's now 30 or 40 of them. I'm not even sure. I should probably go back and look at that. But
well, the average podcast doesn't make it past 3. 90% of them don't make it past 3 episodes. And of those 10% that do, 90% of them don't make it to 22, I think it is. So good for you.
Big microphone and wardrobe.
Right? Exactly.
Awesome.
Well, keep up the good work. Thanks for being here, Cari.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it, Lisa.
Take care.